There are moments in life when you feel surrounded by darkness, not necessarily because everything around you is visibly wrong, but because you simply do not understand what is happening. You may be facing confusion, uncertainty, disappointment, or the painful feeling that something in your life has changed and you do not know why. In those moments, Psalm 36 reminds us of a powerful truth. God sees clearly even when we cannot. You may not know every detail about the situations around you. You cannot know every person's thoughts, motives, or intentions. You cannot see every conversation happening beyond your presence. You cannot predict every challenge that tomorrow may bring. Trying to know everything can become exhausting, and sometimes fear grows when we focus too much on what is hidden from us. But nothing is hidden from God. God sees what is happening in the open, and He also sees what you cannot see. He understands the complete picture when you only understand one small part of it. He knows the beginning, the present moment, and the future possibilities ahead. You may feel confused, but God is not confused. You may feel surprised, but God is not caught by surprise. That truth can give you peace. Sometimes we become afraid because we believe we must discover every possible danger before we can be safe. We begin analyzing every conversation, questioning every person's motives, and imagining problems that may never happen. But God does not call you to live under constant suspicion. He calls you to live with wisdom, faith, and discernment. There is an important difference between wisdom and fear. Wisdom helps you pay attention to reality and make responsible decisions. Fear creates stories from incomplete information and expects the worst. Ask God to help you recognize that difference. If something genuinely requires your attention, seek the truth. Gather the facts. Talk with trustworthy people. Establish healthy boundaries. Take appropriate action, but do not allow your imagination to become your evidence. God can guide you without making you afraid of everyone around you. Perhaps you are facing a decision and do not know whom to trust. Pray for discernment. Ask God to give you clarity. Watch for consistency between people's words and actions. Take your time when possible. Do not rush into major decisions because of pressure. Wisdom often grows through patience. Maybe you are worried about your future. You have many questions but few answers. Remember that you are not required to solve your entire future today. God may only be asking you to take the next faithful step. You may not have the complete map, but you can trust the one who sees the entire journey. There may also be things from your past that you wish you understood better. Perhaps someone hurt you, and you never received an explanation. Perhaps an opportunity disappeared, and you still do not know why. Some questions may never receive the answers you desire. Even then, you can trust God. You do not have to understand everything before you can have peace. Sometimes peace begins when you stop demanding complete knowledge and begin trusting God's complete wisdom. You can say, Lord, if there is something I need to know, show me. If there is something I need to do, guide me. But if there are things beyond my understanding, help me leave them safely in your hands. A God sees every detail of your life, including the parts that confuse you. He sees your fears, your hopes, your disappointments, and your prayers. He knows what you are carrying, even when you cannot explain it to anyone else. So do not allow the darkness of uncertainty to convince you that you are alone or forgotten. The God who sees you can guide you through what you cannot yet understand. When you cannot see what is ahead, trust the God who sees every detail and knows exactly how to guide your next step. When darkness seems to surround your life, it can be easy to believe that the darkness is stronger than the light. A difficult situation can become so large in your mind that you forget everything God has already brought you through. Fear can speak loudly, discouragement can feel convincing, uncertainty can make you wonder whether there is truly a way forward. But Psalm 36 reminds us that God's light is greater than every darkness you may face. Darkness can take many forms. Sometimes it is confusion about the future. Sometimes it is emotional pain that makes it difficult to see hope. Sometimes it is disappointment after something you trusted did not work out. Sometimes it is fear about circumstances beyond your control. Whatever form it takes, darkness does not have the authority to decide the end of your story. God's light can reach places where your understanding cannot. You may not have every answer today, but you do not need every answer in order to take the next step. A person walking with a small light at night may not see the entire road, but the light can still show enough of the path to keep moving forward. In the same way, God may not reveal your entire future at once, but He can give you wisdom for the decision directly in front of you. Do not allow the fact that you cannot see far ahead to convince you that there is no path. Sometimes God's light comes through His Word. When your thoughts are filled with fear, Scripture can remind you of truths that your emotions may have forgotten. Sometimes His light comes through prayer, giving you peace and clarity when your mind feels overwhelmed. Sometimes it comes through wise counsel, a timely conversation, or an opportunity you had not previously considered. God can guide you in many ways, but walking in God's light also requires a willingness to respond when guidance comes. If you ask God for wisdom and recognize that a certain decision would compromise your integrity, have the courage to step away. If you realize that a relationship or situation is unhealthy, take appropriate steps to protect your well-being. If you see an opportunity to grow, do not allow fear to keep you from moving forward. Light is not only something we receive, it is also a direction we choose to follow. Perhaps you have spent too much time focusing on the darkness around you. You have replayed every disappointment, imagined every possible negative outcome, and allowed your fears to become louder than your faith. Today, pause and remember that fear is not the only voice speaking into your life. God is still speaking through truth. You may have faced darkness before and thought you would never recover, yet you are still here. You may have walked through seasons that seemed impossible at the time, yet somehow you continued. Remembering God's past faithfulness can give you courage for your present circumstances. And even when you do not understand why something is happening, you can choose not to surrender your hope. Hope does not mean pretending everything is easy. Hope means believing that difficulty does not have the final word. It means continuing to pray when the answer has not arrived. It means continuing to make wise choices when circumstances are uncertain. It means continuing to trust that God can bring guidance and purpose even from a season you would never have chosen. You do not need to be controlled by the darkness of what you do not know. Keep walking, keep praying, keep seeking wisdom, keep trusting God one day at a time. His light can guide you through confusion, strengthen you in discouragement, and remind you that your future is not determined by the difficulty of your present moment. No darkness is greater than God's light, so keep trusting Him and take the next faithful step forward. There are times when you know you need more than strength. You need wisdom. You may be facing a situation where the right answer is not obvious, where several paths are open before you, and you do not know which one will lead you in the right direction. This is why Psalm 36 encourages us to look beyond our own understanding and trust the light and wisdom of God. Sometimes the greatest danger is not what you can clearly see. It is confusion. When you are confused, you may make decisions too quickly. You may trust the wrong person because you feel pressured. You may walk through a door simply because you are tired of waiting. You may respond emotionally because you are frustrated. That is why discernment is so important. Discernment helps you slow down and see more clearly. Before making an important decision, take time to pray. Bring the situation honestly before God. You can say, "Lord, show me what I need to understand. Help me see clearly. Give me wisdom to recognize what is right, and give me courage to walk away from what is not good for me." Then pay attention. Wisdom does not always come through a dramatic moment. Sometimes clarity develops gradually. You begin to notice that someone's words and actions do not match. You recognize that a certain opportunity requires you to compromise your values. You realize that something you once wanted is no longer healthy for you. These moments of understanding can help guide your decisions. But discernment should not become suspicion. You do not need to assume that everyone has bad intentions. You do not need to search constantly for hidden enemies or secret plans. That kind of fear can steal your peace. Wisdom looks for truth, while suspicion looks for reasons to be afraid. Ask God for the ability to know the difference. If you have genuine concerns, do not ignore them. Gather facts. Ask appropriate questions. Seek advice from trustworthy and mature people. Give yourself time before making decisions that can wait. You are allowed to pause. Not every decision needs an immediate answer. Sometimes pressure makes you believe that you must choose right now, but wisdom often creates space to think. If someone is forcing you to make a rushed decision, that pressure itself may be something to consider carefully. God's guidance will never require you to abandon integrity. If a path requires dishonesty, manipulation, or treating people unfairly, no amount of temporary success is worth the cost. A decision may appear beneficial on the surface, but wisdom asks you to look beyond the immediate reward. What will this choice produce in your life? What will it do to your character? Will you be able to live with peace after making it? These are important questions. You may also need to recognize that fear can sometimes disguise itself as wisdom. You may tell yourself that you are being careful, when, in reality, you are simply afraid to move forward. Discernment does not mean refusing every opportunity. It means carefully considering opportunities without allowing fear or pressure to control you. There will be times when you still have unanswered questions, even after praying and seeking advice. At that point, you may need to take the next wise step in faith. You cannot always wait until you feel 100% certain. Trust that God can continue guiding you as you move forward. And if you make a mistake, do not believe that your entire future is destroyed. Learn from it, take responsibility, make changes where necessary, seek God again. His guidance is not limited to one moment or one decision. Ask God for wisdom and discernment, and trust Him to guide you toward truth without allowing fear or confusion to control your path. When life feels uncertain and the path ahead is difficult to understand, one of the greatest places you can find peace is in the love of God. Psalm 36 reminds us that His steadfast love is precious, and that those who trust in Him can find refuge in His care. This is important because there will be seasons when you cannot find security in circumstances, people, or plans. Everything around you may seem to change, but God's love remains a place where your heart can rest. Sometimes we look for safety in things that cannot guarantee it. We place our confidence in a job, a relationship, money, a plan, or the approval of other people. These things can be valuable, but they can also change unexpectedly. When our entire sense of security depends on them, fear can quickly take over when something is lost or threatened. But God's love gives you a deeper foundation. You may not be able to control everything around you, but you can bring your heart to God. You can come to Him when you are afraid, confused, disappointed, or tired. You do not have to wait until you feel strong. You do not have to pretend that everything is fine. God knows the truth about your heart, and you can approach Him honestly. Perhaps you have been carrying a burden alone. You have tried to solve every problem by yourself, but the weight has become too heavy. This is the moment to remember that you were never meant to carry every burden without support. Bring your concerns to God in prayer. Tell Him what is worrying you. Tell Him what is hurting you. Tell Him what you cannot control. Then allow yourself to rest. Rest does not mean that every problem immediately disappears. It means you stop believing that you must personally control every outcome. You can take responsibility for your decisions while trusting God with the things beyond your power. This is where refuge becomes real. A refuge is a place of safety when the storm is still happening. You do not need a refuge when everything is easy. You need one when you are exposed, tired, and uncertain. God's love becomes a spiritual refuge because it reminds you that difficulty does not mean abandonment. You may feel alone, but you are not forgotten. You may feel uncertain, but God is not confused. You may feel weak, but you can still seek strength. Sometimes God's love is experienced through quiet moments of peace. Sometimes it comes through the encouragement of people who care about you. Sometimes it comes through a reminder in Scripture that reaches your heart at exactly the right time. Sometimes it comes through the strength to endure another day. Do not limit God's care to one form. He can meet you in ways you did not expect. And when you receive His love, allow it to change how you treat yourself and others. Do not allow a difficult season to turn your heart completely toward bitterness. You can establish healthy boundaries without closing your heart to all people. You can learn from disappointment without losing your ability to love. God's love can keep your heart soft while giving you wisdom to live wisely. If you are facing uncertainty today, make God's love your refuge. Return to Him in prayer instead of allowing fear to dominate your thoughts. Spend time remembering His faithfulness. Release the pressure to have every answer. You do not have to know the entire future to be safe in God's care. The circumstances around you may change, but His love does not disappear when the season becomes difficult. His faithfulness can become the foundation beneath you when everything else feels unstable. When life feels uncertain, rest in God's love and let His presence become the safe refuge your heart needs. There are moments when you wish God would reveal your entire future at once. You want to know exactly what decision to make, where the next opportunity will come from, how a difficult situation will end, and what your life will look like months or years from now. But Psalm 36 reminds us that in God's light, we receive the light we need to see the way forward. Often, God does not reveal the entire journey at once. Instead, He gives us guidance for the next step. This can be difficult because uncertainty makes us want complete answers. We may delay moving forward because we are waiting to understand every detail. But sometimes clarity comes as you continue walking faithfully. You may not see 10 steps ahead, but you can often see the next wise step. Ask yourself, what is the right thing I can do today? Perhaps the next step is to pray more consistently. Perhaps it is to have an honest conversation. Perhaps it is to apologize for something you did wrong. Perhaps it is to apply for an opportunity, learn a new skill, establish a healthy boundary, or simply rest because you have been carrying too much. God's guidance is often practical. You do not always need a dramatic sign before doing what you already know is wise and right. If you know you should walk in honesty, then choose honesty. If you know you need to forgive, begin the process of forgiveness. If you know a situation is unhealthy, take appropriate steps to protect yourself. If you know you need help, have the courage to ask for it. One faithful step can lead to another. Sometimes we make guidance more complicated because we are afraid of making the wrong decision. We want a guarantee that nothing difficult will happen. But faith does not always come with guarantees about comfort. Sometimes the right path still requires courage. God may guide you toward a difficult conversation. He may lead you to change something that feels familiar. He may ask you to leave behind habits that are holding you back. He may open a door that requires you to grow. Do not assume that a challenging path is automatically the wrong path. Instead, seek wisdom, consider the facts, pray, talk with mature and trustworthy people when appropriate, then take the next step that aligns with truth and integrity. God can continue guiding you as you move forward. And remember, you do not have to rush. There is a difference between taking a faithful step and acting impulsively. If a decision can wait, give yourself time to think clearly. Do not allow pressure or fear to force you into a choice you have not carefully considered. Sometimes slowing down is part of wisdom. As you seek God's guidance, pay attention to the direction of your character. The path God leads you toward should not require you to become dishonest, cruel, manipulative, or irresponsible. God's light leads you toward truth. This is also why you must guard what influences your mind. If you spend every day surrounded by fear, anger, and negativity, it becomes more difficult to think clearly. Give space to prayer, scripture, gratitude, and wise encouragement. Let God's truth become louder than the confusion around you. There may still be unanswered questions, and that is okay. You can walk with questions. You can move forward while continuing to learn. You do not have to have every answer before taking the next responsible step. And if you make a mistake, do not lose hope. Learn from it, correct what you can, and return to God for wisdom. His guidance does not disappear because you are imperfect. Let God's light guide your next step, and trust that you do not need to see the entire road when He is faithful to lead you one step at a time. When you are walking through a season of uncertainty, one of the greatest challenges is learning to trust God with what you cannot see. There may be situations in your life that remain unanswered. You may wonder why certain doors closed, why some plans changed, why people acted the way they did, or why your prayer has not yet been answered. Psalm 36 reminds us that even when we cannot see the full picture, we can still trust the God who sees everything. You were never meant to carry the burden of knowing every hidden detail. Sometimes we exhaust ourselves trying to understand things that are beyond our reach. We replay conversations, analyze people's actions, imagine possible outcomes, and search for answers that may not be available to us. But the more we try to control what we cannot control, the more we can lose our peace. There is freedom in surrender. Surrender does not mean ignoring reality or refusing to act wisely. It means doing what you can responsibly and trusting God with the rest. If you need to ask questions, ask them. If you need to make a decision, seek wisdom. If you need to establish a boundary, do so. But after you have taken the steps available to you, release what remains outside your control. You do not have to solve every mystery. There may be people whose intentions you will never fully understand. There may be situations that end without giving you the closure you wanted. There may be seasons that do not make sense until much later. Do not allow unanswered questions to keep you trapped in the past. Some answers become clear with time. Others may never be fully explained. But your peace does not have to depend on receiving every explanation. You can move forward even when you do not understand everything. You can trust God while still having questions. You can continue praying while waiting for clarity. Faith is not pretending that confusion does not exist. Faith is choosing not to allow confusion to control your life. When fear begins to grow, return your focus to what you know. You know that you can take the next wise step. You know that you can pray. You know that you can seek help when necessary. You know that you can live with integrity. You know that you can choose not to let anger make your decisions for you. Focus on what is within your hands today. Sometimes we become so concerned about hidden possibilities that we forget to live in the present. We worry about what someone may be planning. We fear something that might happen tomorrow. We become anxious about situations that have not even occurred. But do not surrender your peace to possibilities that may never become reality. Instead, ask God for wisdom and clarity. If there is something you genuinely need to know, trust Him to help you recognize it in the proper time. Meanwhile, continue living responsibly. Continue developing your character. Continue caring for your relationships. Continue taking practical steps toward your goals. God can guide you without requiring you to know everything in advance. And if something hidden eventually becomes clear, do not panic. Ask God for wisdom about how to respond. Sometimes knowledge requires action. Sometimes it requires a difficult conversation. Sometimes it requires a healthy boundary. And sometimes it simply requires letting go and moving forward. Whatever you discover, remember that you do not have to face it alone. The same God who guides you in the light can strengthen you in uncertainty. His wisdom is greater than your confusion, and His faithfulness is greater than the fear of what you cannot see. So stop carrying questions that God has not asked you to answer today. Release the need to control every outcome. Trust Him with the unseen parts of your journey, while remaining faithful with what He has already placed before you. Trust God with what you cannot see, because even when the path is unclear, His light is still able to guide you forward.